Hey everyone, this is Mark Lichtenwalter, Red Pill Mormon. Today we're going to be reading page 4 of the Ensign to the Nations Bible Edition. We are on page 15 of the book, as it is translated correctly, which you can read for free online at ogdenkraut.com. So, let's see, the name of the title, or the title of this chapter is History of Biblical Manuscripts. So it's chapter 2, but we're on page 4 of the Ensign to the Nations Bible Edition and page 15 of the book as it is translated correctly, which you can read at ogdenkraut.com. So Konstantin Jon Tischendorf was a student at the University of Leipzig and began his work on revisions of the Bible through study of original or near source materials. There are no originals, but anyway. In 1844, he went to the Middle East and began work on the library at the monastery of St. Catherine in the Sinai Peninsula. While there, he discovered portions of old parchment which he determined to be among some of the oldest biblical manuscripts ever found. In 1853, he made another trip to the Sinai with the hopes of recovering other leaves that he had seen on his first trip, but to no avail. In 1859, with the support of the Russian government, he made a third trip to the Sinai monastery. Just as he was about to give up all hope of finding the manuscripts, a steward of the monastery showed him the manuscripts that he was looking for, and some others too. After some negotiations, he purchased them for about $7,000. Tischendorf purchased for Tsar Alexander II the Codex Sinaiticus. I'm pretty sure I'm getting that one wrong. It's actually really, really, really important manuscript of the Bible. Anyway, in 1933, the British government purchased them for $1.5 million for the British Museum. This manuscript dates back to approximately the later half of the 4th century, also. So that's pretty far back as far as manuscripts go. It's not the oldest. Anyway, number 3, the Alexandrian manuscript. This 5th century manuscript derives its name from Alexandria, which is where it was found, and I think that is in Egypt on the Mediterranean. It was once offered as a gift to King James I of England, but James died before the gift could be received, so it was given as a gift in 1627 to his successor, Charles I. Later, it was placed in the British Museum. It created a great deal of excitement when it was presented to England. Much of the same Dead Sea Scrolls in our day. Um, okay, I read that wrong. So basically, it created about as much excitement in England in those days as the Dead Sea Scrolls created in our time. It contains both Testaments, but there are portions of the Old Testament missing. Also, parts of Matthew, John, and 2nd Corinthians are absent from the New Testament. Number 4, the Ephraim Codex. So the difference between a scroll and a codex is like a scroll. You know, it's just a long piece of paper, and you wind it up and out and whatever. Anyway, but a codex is like the first form of a book, like where they took the pages and they had a binding like this. The manuscript has two layers of writing on it. The top layer is 12th century copy of the writings of Ephraim of Syria, which is why it has his name. But the earliest writing underneath of it is of much more importance, for it is a 5th century copy of the scriptures. Large portions of the Old Testament are missing, but in the New Testament the only portions missing are from 2nd Thessalonians and 2nd John. By the way, are on page 16 of the book as it is translated correctly. It is now located in the National Library of Paris. The first full edition of this manuscript was not published until 1845. Number 5. The Codex Bezae. This manuscript was presented at the University of Cambridge in 1581, where it still remains. It was written in both Greek and Latin. Each text faces each other, the Greek on the left side and the Latin on the right. It is quite small, 8 by 10 inches, with one column of writing on each page. However, it contains only the Gospels and Acts, with a few verses from Paul's writings. This manuscript was a distinction of being the most puzzling of all the early manuscripts because its additions and omissions. Some have looked upon it with suspicion and question, but in recent years it has been receiving more respect as a valid New Testament document. I feel like I need to sneeze. Excuse me. All right, so the Sinaitic Syriac manuscript is number 6. This manuscript was also found at St. Catherine's Monastery on Mount Sinai in 1892. Two sisters, Miss Agnes Lewis and Miss Margaret Gibson, were searching for rare biblical manuscripts at Sinai when they found this double written document. The bottom layer of the writing was identified as being a Syriac copy of the Gospels. It is the fact that this Syriac translation goes back to the 4th or 5th century that makes it so interesting and valuable. All right, so the Washington manuscript. The manuscript came into the hands of Charles Freer of Detroit in 1906. It contains a copy of the four Gospels dating from the 4th or 5th century and consists of several lines in Mark's Gospel which are not found in any other manuscript. Number 8, the Koradatha, I think, Gospels. This manuscript was discovered in 1913. It was written about the 9th century and has sustaining information regarding the text of the Bible. So we're on page 17. If you're reading along at ogdenkraut.com, just click on Read Ogden's books, and then it's the first of the list. So as it is translated correctly, we're on page 17. Number 9, Chester Beatty Papyri. These papyri are said to have come from jars taken out of an Egyptian graveyard and were collected by Chester Beatty. Portions of these are of the Old Testament in Greek, so that's the Septuagint, with some portions in the some portions of the New Testament. It has been considered valuable because it possibly dates back to the beginning of the 3rd century, thus placing it closely to the Vatican and to the Sinaitic codexes. Later manuscripts. Many manuscripts dating from the 9th to the 15th century have been recovered. Most of these are written in cursive running hand. More than 2,500 cursive manuscripts have been dialogued, but their age tends to limit their value. Many of these are made in elaborate and artistic decorations, often portraying a portrait of the authors of the four Gospels. These artistic manuscripts usually identify their date, and their ornamental, multicolored texts are elegant to look upon. Other texts besides Hebrew have contributed to missing parts of the Hebrew text and otherwise help to support those manuscripts, such as number one, the Samaritan Pentateuch. The Samaritan Pentateuch is not a translation, but it is a form of Hebrew text itself. Its beginning is to be traced back to about 400 BC, when the Samaritans separated themselves from the Jews and built their sanctuary on Mount Gerizim near Shechem. As a result, the Samaritans adopted their own form of the Hebrew scriptures and counted as authoritative only 5 books of Moses. In one sense, the Samaritan Pentateuch presents a problem, for it bears some 6,000 variants from the Masoretic texts. Okay, and this is the last little section here that I'm going to read today, because we're about to go on to page 5. But number 2, Septuagint. The word Septuagint is derived from the Latin Septuaginta, meaning 70, and is a common name given to the Greek translation of the Old Testament. And by the way, we're on page 18, as it is translated correctly. Greek translations of the Old Testament. According to an unfounded tradition, about 70 men took part in the translation of the Pentateuch. It is believed that the version was completed at Alexandria, that's in Egypt, but possibly by Alexandrian rather than Palestinian Jews. Okay, now we're on page 5, but I'm going to finish this little section. The time of the Egyptian king Ptolemy II of Philadelphus is also probably right, making the origin of the Septuagint approximately 250 BC. Whatever mysteries may surround it, the Septuagint translation will always hold interest among Christians. For a while, it was the only Bible for the Earth Church. It was the text most found quoted by the apostles and inspired writers of the New Testament. Yet beyond these prevailing attachments, the Septuagint version is an extremely valuable authority on the Old Testament texts. It is true that it has its deficiencies. It has mistakes of translations and differences from the Masoretic text. And anyway, that was a quote from Neil Lightfoot's book, How We Got the Bible, on page 73. So, all right, well, I'm just going to mark this real quick so I know where we left off on. Oh, man. I just got down here to Wilson's Arch. Oh, it's the 22nd. Okay. 10/22, 2025. Oh, it's almost 4 p.m. And I am getting ready to go down to Chandler, Arizona, which is 462 miles. It says I'll get there around midnight. Oh my gosh, this book is so heavy. Well, I'm going to put this up here because it actually takes me a minute to put it away. But I want to show you guys where I'm at real quick. So that's Wilson's Arch right there. If you want to see better pictures, go to my Facebook, facebook.com/LAZURUS, or just search me. It's I put my last name first, so it's Lichten Walter Mark. That's Lichthenwalter. And you can find me also at LDS Last Days Prophecy and Gospel Discussions, LDS Gospel Ministry or Mysteries, and then I have a page called Zion's Redemption Radio Network. So you can also find me on YouTube, youtube.com/user/God is my compass. Channel name is Zion's Redemption Radio Network, and my TikTok is Red Pill Mormon. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap up everything I need to get going here. I'm gonna be driving through Monticello, Blanding, uh, Flagstaff. Anyway, let me just switch this thing here. Here's my book. But anyway, there's a better picture for you guys. I got here at 6 in the morning, and I am about to get out of here because it's 3:59, so my logbook sets it or resets at 4. So, all right, well, everyone have a good day. Take care, and I'll post this as soon as I can get it to post. It's not the greatest reception here as far as cell phone service goes. So anyway, also real quick, so I have all these parts that I did for my history, and then I don't know what happened to the one that my wife and I recorded together. So that's part 3. That's why I haven't been posting that lately, because I need to re-record it. I might just do um, my side of it, and then she can do her side of it later. She's told the story a million times, but uh, it's good to hear it from her perspective too. So, all right, well, maybe I'll work on that later today. I got to get going. I'm going to be driving through the Navajo Nation today. Yay. Luckily, it's not tourist season with all their RVs and campers. They're the worst. Anyway, I better get going. Take care, everyone. See you later.